Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Real Estate Roundup. I'm Emmanuel Romanis. We have a unique show for you today. Joining me in a little bit is going to be actress, author Eleni Romanis. She is also a native of Upper St. Clair and also happens to be my daughter, so I'm a little bit biased. And you're probably wondering, well, what does an actress have to do with real estate? We'll tell you. In my business, in my profession of real estate, the old axiom is anytime you're looking for property, it's location, location, location. Well, I wondered, being in the business that my daughter is in, Hollywood, if the same was true when they scout for locations to film movies. So that's what we're going to talk about, among other things. And Eleni flew in last night, actually, from Burbank, California. Here at BPTV, folks, we spare no expense to give you the best programming that we possibly can. So we're going to talk to her in just a moment. And of course, anyone who wants to contact the show, just email us at realestateroundup@outlook.com. But before we bring Eleni over, that brings us to our segment, Who Knew? Can you imagine squeezing the world's population into the state of Maine? Well, in the 19th century, the Mitsubishi Corporation did just that. How they did it when we come back. Stick around.
William Miller! William Miller! William Miller, come forth!
Okay, squeezing the world's population into the state of Maine. Well, Hollywood, as you know, has taken kindly to Pittsburgh when it comes to on-location shooting, from The Dark Knight Rises to Jack Reacher to Silence of the Lambs, to name a few. But one of the most bizarre locations was the crumbling, abandoned city on an island, which was used as the lair of James Bond's nemesis in the movie Skyfall. Gunkanjima is the name of this Japanese island, which was used by the Mitsubishi Corporation as a coal mining base for almost 100 years in the 19th century. At its height, the 16-acre island housed 5,250 coal miners, which is roughly the equivalent of squeezing the world's population into the state of Maine. Who knew? Now, with that, I'd like to bring on Eleni Romanis. She is an actress, author, writer, director, producer, and on the Sabbath, she rested. Eleni, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
How was your flight in from Burbank?
Not bad. I slept, so it was good.
That's always good.
Right?
Now, among your work, you're actually starting to build a nice little resume of work. You have screen work, which includes Monongahela, Ascension, Into Oblivion, and My Other Half. You also have stage work, which includes the Gemini Children's Theater, Three Rivers Theater, the Penn State School of Theater, which by way you're a graduate
Yes.
of, and the No Refund Theater. And you've also done some voiceover work with a production called The Shelter Survival Story, correct?
Yes.
Now, you've written a book,
Yeah.
so you're an author.
Yes, I am.
Well, let's talk about a little bit about the book.
Sure.
It's called Greek Goddess, and then I want to segue that into the upcoming movie
Yes.
because your plans now. You're in, and I hope I get this right. You're in pre-production to turn the book into a live-action film.
Yes.
Correct?
Exactly.
And that's going to be filmed here in Pittsburgh?
Yes, actually, the entire film is going to be in Pittsburgh, yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's start with the book. It's a graphic novel, correct? Okay. Greek Goddess, basically, what is it about?
So Greek Goddess, it's about Athena, who's the main character, and she is a bigger girl who's this charmingly awkward band geek in high school, and as it turns out, she has the spirit of the ancient Greek goddess Athena inside of her.
Okay.
So when the god of war comes seeking revenge, all these series of events occur, and what ends up happening is the spirit gets unleashed inside Athena, so she transforms into this marching band flag twirler, into this amazing spear wielder through her journey to save the earth, essentially.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, a comic book series and a graphic novel, what are the differences?
So a graphic novel it's essentially a novel. So what it means is it's a story from beginning to end.
Okay.
Usually it's just a single book
Okay.
or novel. And where comics and anime, typically what it means is they have volumes. So there's more than one. Like a lot of them it could be any amount, like there could be 5 volumes, there could be 20 volumes, just depending on the story. But essentially it just means that there's more than one.
Okay, so a comic book series would be like a series on television.
Yeah.
That renews
Yes.
every year.
Yes.
And a graphic
essentially.
novel is a movie.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it, actually, yes.
Okay, good deal. Now, you wrote this in the anime format.
Yes.
What is anime, and what chose you to go that route?
Sure. Well, anime is really just a specific style in terms of drawing, like visually what it looks like.
Okay.
So I just honestly prefer that look more than others, rather than being more cartoonish.
Okay.
So in terms of turning it into a graphic novel specifically and not just a book, when I actually wrote the script first for the movie first.
Okay.
And so after I wrote the script, I realized it fit that, kind of cheesy action comedy very well. And so I thought, from a marketing standpoint, it may be very good to turn that into a book first.
Sure.
And release that. So I adapted that script specifically into the graphic novel version. And and not specifically just anime, I mean, comic books are kind of this way too, but anime specifically, it's kind of more campy and cheesy.
Okay.
In terms of like when you're reading it, and things happen a lot quicker than they would in a movie, obviously, because
Sure.
you're trying to read quickly and whatnot. So I wrote it specifically in that style and found an anime artist who illustrated it, Brian
Okay.
Golden, and he did a fantastic job. And even the work that it ended up becoming, the final book, it's even more so. Like Brian's original work is more anime, but he kind of put his own twist on it too, so it
Okay.
kind of even looks more realistic in terms of the characters and what they look like and everything. But it's just, essentially the art style.
Now, anime is very popular in Japan. Is that
Yes.
is that where it started?
I believe so. I'm not 100% positive,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure because I know it's huge over there.
Okay. Now, the book itself, it's available on Amazon.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. And I understand you had a couple book signings. You
did.
had one in May.
Yes.
And where was that? That was here, right?
Yeah, my first book signing was in Bridgeville. It was
Okay.
at this place called Nerds, Cards, and Comics.
Okay.
And it's a comic book store.
Right.
Over there, and it was. I actually know Dalian Townsend. He's the owner of it. So
Okay.
we were talking, and he was very, very nice to invite me there and have
Okay.
it. So it was wonderful. It was really cool to be home.
Right.
And to have my first book signing, which was crazy. So yeah, it went very well.
And then last month you had one at the Barnes & Noble in
Yes.
Burbank.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Barnes & Noble, it was actually a couple weeks ago. It was, they contacted me like a few days before, and they were having this pop culture event because the San Diego Comic-Con was just happening.
Oh,
so
okay.
I assume that's why they were having this event. So as part of their event, being that it's the anime genre and everything, they thought that it would fit in well.
Nice.
So yeah, it was kind of a surreal experience to have them, Barnes & Noble, contact you and be like, hey, come on over.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was really wonderful.
Now, you have a couple book signings that are coming up here in Pittsburgh,
do,
correct? You have
yes.
one, let me see, September 18th
Yes.
in Phantom of the Attic in Oakland.
Yes.
Okay,
That's one of the big for the colleges.
Okay, and that's at 2 p.m.
Yes.
And then you also have another one, at the Barnes & Noble here in South Hills
Hills.
Village. And that's October 8th at 2 p.m.
Yes.
Excellent.
Weekend, so hopefully people can go.
Good. Well, that's wonderful. That is
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Now, what I want to transition into, as I said earlier on in the program, real estate, which is my business, as you know, it's all about location.
Yes.
People want to buy investment property. They want to buy a home. They're looking for resale value. It's all about location, location, location. Now that you have transitioned the book into a movie, and you're going to make a movie, you're now looking for locations
Yeah.
to shoot on site, correct? Unfortunately, there isn't the budget to go to Warner Brothers
Right, I wish.
say build me a set.
Yeah, exactly.
So in Hollywood terms, is it the same thing? What are you looking for in finding the right location or locations to film your movie?
So it's essentially, whether you're in, I mean, not that I've ever worked with, big wigs in Hollywood who obviously have a lot more experience than I do, but whether it's a huge production or a tiny independent film, it's essentially the same process.
Okay.
A big difference is if you're on a soundstage where, TV shows, they build everything right on the stage, so that's easier.
Right.
But for anything that's on location, you have location scouts, and essentially all you do is you Google, you research, you make calls. You first have to, determine what kind of locations you're looking for to begin with.
Okay.
And then you look for, is it an outdoor, like let's say, is it in the woods, for example? So when you're looking for a wooded area, you have to find, is it a public area? Is it somebody's private owned property? Where is it? And then, you just research, those kind of things. And once you find, usually you look for a few
Right.
to go, and then you actually would prefer to go see if it's even possible to film there, like
Okay.
area, space-wise, how many trees,
Right.
all that kind of things. And then if you find places that you do like, then that's when you get into the legality aspects, because if it is a private owned property, you have to find out who owns it, first of all, and then talk to them, and because they, have to sign a contract, giving you permission to be on their property and to use that in the film. And then that's where it also sometimes goes into if there's any fees or, any royalties, depending on being that it is footage that may potentially, make a profit later on, kind of thing. Usually, I mean, again, not that I have done major location scouting, but typically, it'll be like a one-time fee that you pay for it, depending, or, if you know them, sometimes they'll just let you use it. But regardless of if you know them or not, they still have to sign a contract, just for legality issues. Because, even if it was yourself or a family member that you knew, you never know, they could come back later and be like, hey, just so you know, I own this property, it's my house or my land in the film, kind of thing. So, and another big thing to look for, whether outdoors specifically is kind of harder to look for in terms of a power source.
Okay.
So it's a little easier when it's indoors, because almost all indoors, but at the same time, where if it's a house that's, let's say, vacant, if you're a lot of times you will talk to real estate agents because they're the ones in charge of, negotiating those things. So you have to see, are you able to get the power on for a week or two, however long you're filming in there, and what the costs, of course, are.
Yeah.
And in a lot of places, and not necessarily in the woods, but you have to see if you need a generator, all that kind of things. But if it's public places, especially if it's a school or a stadium type setting, security is another big thing to look for as well. Yeah, so it's just another fee that you have to think about, but it's also essential because you want safety is the most important thing, of course. So there's a lot of different things that go into it.
And I imagine, and you mentioned about power, if you need a generator, I would think that in conjunction with that, generators make noise.
Yes.
So you'd have to factor in, how far my cable runs, because we don't want to hear the generator while we're filming. So then you have to figure out how much cable am I going to need, things of that nature too.
Yes.
Which is something that most people would never think of.
Absolutely.
But yeah, if the generator's right there, I could also imagine. In fact, what brought this to mind is what was the movie? The movie The Mummy.
Yeah.
When they had outtakes, they were filming one scene on the train.
Oh, and the plane.
And the plane came overhead. And again, that's something you never think of. But then you got to figure, how close is it to a highway? Trucks.
Absolutely.
Pollution.
Sound.
Airplanes. Sound. And I guess whether indoors or outdoors, I guess sound is a big issue as well. To make sure. I remember, as you know, I used to be a musician for many years. We would go into a hall and do the clap test.
Yeah.
See how much reverberation there was and echo and things like that. I imagine it's the same thing with a movie. You have to figure all that out as well, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. More so, not necessarily for a location, but in terms of sound, before every scene, you always do a sound test.
Okay.
So they have to check for it. And there's very many times where even just somebody walking by, like if you're in a school, let's say, and there's a class that lets out, and, you can hear those voices. The microphone picks up a lot of things. So a lot of times you'll stop and start again.
Now, I guess with technology, and I guess technology just makes it easier now, but they probably have always done this. You can edit that stuff out later, right? Background noise, or is there only so much you can do with that?
You can, absolutely. There is a lot of technology, like you said. But a lot of times what they do is they will just re-record the voice, the dialogue.
Oh, so do a voiceover.
Yeah, so instead of oftentimes, I don't know the exact details, but a lot of times they'll just cut that whatever sound they have for that scene already, and then just completely redo it.
Okay.
And they just match it up to the picture.
And that can be done in the studio.
Oh yeah,
correct?
and that's all. It's post-production, so that you go back. They take a look at those scenes that they might just not be able to get rid of that plane or something.
Okay.
And they'll just redo it if the shot looks really good.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I would imagine too. Now you have you've a crowd of people, cast, crew, what have you.
Yes.
Bathroom facilities.
That's a big one.
You have to feed them.
Bathroom's probably the biggest one.
Parking.
Yes.
Because I imagine they're not walking.
Right.
And they're probably not all carpooling either.
Well, you don't know. No, you're absolutely right. And a lot of times too, especially for bigger films and stuff, because if you have so many people, they have what's called a base camp, and so that's where they tell everybody to go. Specifically, and sometimes where you park will be different than where the base camp is.
Okay.
But let's say for this purpose, it's the same place. So you would go park at the base camp. Base camp is just where it's like the holding for actors, background, whatever.
Okay.
Where they can sit, eat, whatever until you're needed.
Right.
And so they'll go there, and a lot of times it'll be somewhere completely different from where actual location is. So then they have shuttles that will go back and forth to minimize on sound and cars coming back and forth.
Okay. Kind of like Disney World.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. We're just like Disney World.
so Disney's just a big production.
Exactly. It's all a show.
Indeed, it is. Well, that's interesting, because there's a lot of stuff there that the average layman like myself, who's not in the business, would never think of.
Yeah.
Again, feeding, restroom facilities, lighting. I imagine lighting is a big deal.
It is. No matter where you are, they're always going to adjust the lighting. That's just kind of one of the key elements of film. Is you're always going to have your own lights with you.
Okay.
But in terms of like shading and everything, that's always going to change regardless. But it is something to look at. More specifically, again, outdoors is kind of where it's more of a bigger deal, because that's when you have to determine, is it daylight or is it nighttime?
Okay.
Because that's kind of when you're playing with the sun.
Right.
So it's just a matter of how long is the scene? How long do we have to film the scene? And again, is it a night shoot? And the other thing too, in terms of location, depending on the area you're at, you have to see the houses around you. Because let's say, again, if you're in the woods, but there's 3 houses not far by, you have to notify those people that, hey, you know, we're going to be filming here.
Okay.
And if it's at night, you know, like, are you okay if we have lights or necessarily
Right.
loud noises that are, or a generator, you know, going on?
Right.
That's just another thing you have to think about, because sometimes they might not be okay with that, and
Right.
so that's just another factor you have to think about. So.
Now, I imagine, too, I guess indoor or outdoor, there would be permits involved and things of that nature. So you need to get the local township or borough or whatever, contact them and find out what's allowed, what isn't allowed.
Absolutely, yeah.
Things of that nature.
And for the most part, again, it just depends on what kind of place it is, or if it's like a privately owned property. Because
Right.
for the most part, for privately owned properties, I believe really just the owner has to give permission and all that.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right, especially like for parks and stuff like that.
Right.
You have to have permits. And a lot of places, like if you wanted to go film at a museum, they require insurances, specific insurances for
Okay.
liability,
Right.
and stuff like that. So yes, and you also want to contact the local police. So, you know, if somebody gets a call like, hey, there's
Sure.
these random people, you know, so they're aware, they don't, you know, come sirens blazing into the shot.
I can just
kind of deal.
imagine.
Yeah, it's happened before.
What are you doing?
I've seen that happen, so.
What's amazing, there's an awful lot involved. So look, just like in my business, location, location,
Absolutely,
location.
it's huge.
It's the key. It's the key to everything. Now I understand that you created and developed your own production company.
I did, yes.
What's that called?
It's a Little Put Productions.
Little Put
it's
Productions.
an LLC company.
Okay, and I guess everything now is under that umbrella, correct?
Yes. After I finished the graphic novel, then I rewrote the film,
Right.
and adapted into the live action feature film. And I was talking to production companies about it, and because I'm over in Los Angeles, so you know,
Right.
I was trying to talk to as many as I could, just for informational purposes, but
Sure.
also, you know, to see if you could pitch it and whatnot. It's kind of my first time that I was pitching something.
Right.
So I was looking into all that, and I realized some of them were interested, but as I was talking to more of them, I kind of found out that, you know, one of two things: either it would take an incredibly long time for, you know, to go through where a production would actually take it on and all that stuff, or primarily they would take it over and I wouldn't really have as much of a part of it as I would like to.
Lose control.
Yeah, which I completely understand, but just for this specific film, I knew that I wanted to be
Right.
a bigger part of it, and
Right.
and act in it, as well as, you know, direct and everything. Which I didn't realize until after I wrote it. It was just kind of, as I wrote it, I was like, wow, I really do want to bring this to life, kind of deal. So I realized, you know, not that it's easier, but I realized the best route for me to go was to just produce it myself. And it's a lot more work, of course.
Sure,
But,
sure.
you know, it's what I wanted to do, and I knew I wanted to make it happen. So that's kind of how I had to do it.
One heck of an experience.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
If nothing else, it's a heck of a resume builder.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's awesome. Well, best of luck to you. I hope
you.
everything goes well. Is there anything that you want to add that maybe we didn't cover? Or?
I don't think so. I just hope people get a chance to see it soon and enjoy it.
And before the film, buy the book.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, hopefully people like the book too.
All right. Well, we'll be right back.
I've shown an interest in making home movies. Me and some buddies would just grab a camera and you just start making these videos, and then you realize at some point that this isn't just a hobby anymore, it's something that you actually want to pursue, and there's this great facility right down the road, BPTV. A lot of people will try to do these productions on their own, and one of the things they don't have is the equipment, you know, but right here is everything she needs in one nice little bundle. There's lights, cameras, reflectors, dollies, all kinds of little knickknacks, like anything that you'd want to use that you would need for a production, you have it right here, like it's all right here. You can make your own feature movie just with the stuff from this studio. Come come meet Dave Cable, let him show you around, and I think you'll realize that this is something that you could fall into regardless of your level of expertise, whether you're a beginner or even if you're a more advanced learner. There's something here for everyone, and I feel that you just need to come through and just be a part of the experience and just watch and learn, and let Dave be your guide.
Welcome back. Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with my daughter, Eleni Romanis. Again, I thought it was a fascinating tie-in and a unique tie-in between my business and her business as far as location for buying real estate for your primary residence, investing, or for shooting a film. And it all seems to dovetail, and it's pretty universal as far as what people are looking for. Once again, she has 2 book signings coming up. The first one will be September 18th at 2 p.m. at Phantom of the Attic in Oakland, and on October the 8th at 2 p.m. at the Barnes & Noble here in South Hills Village. Before we wrap it up, I want to dip into the mailbag, and this one is from Sarah from Upper St. Clair, and Sarah asks, who issues an occupancy permit? Well, the occupancy permit, or certificate of occupancy, as it is also known, Sarah, is generally local in nature and issued by the municipality. It simply indicates that the property is suitable for habitation by meeting certain safety and health standards. Oftentimes, a lender will require an occupancy permit be issued prior to closing. So it's very simple. It's done at the local level. And again, it's more of a safety issue to make sure that the property is suitable for habitation. Well, as they say in Hollywood, and as my daughter would say, that's a wrap. Thank you as always for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care.
I brought out a show on the radio about 5 or 6 years ago to try to share a lot of the information that I run across on a weekly basis with clients, and to share those experiences and the knowledge gained from other people's either mistakes or the correct decisions they've made and their successes, and to try to share that with the community so more people could benefit. So we came over and met Dave, and it was real easy. He said, there you go, are you ready? We're very lucky to have this and the resources over here, where it would be quite expensive to try to produce a show like this elsewhere. Bethel Park TV is offering it to all of us. I hope this grows a lot, and I hope a lot more people do take advantage of this. You're missing out on a marvelous opportunity if you don't. It's really a free gift for you to be able to share yourself and your experiences and what your value is with others at low to no risk. Anyone who's considering doing a show, come on out of your shell. Come on over here. Dave's very gentle, very nice. He'll help guide you through this. If you make mistakes, he'll edit it out and record it over, so don't worry about saying something wrong. Just come over and share what you have with others. Just be yourself, come over here and let other people see who you are, why you're here, and who you're trying to help and what you're trying to say. It is that easy.